Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So this house opposes Fukui prefectures, emphasizing themselves as the happiest prefecture. So first of all, I would like to explain that happiness of Fukui prefecture is decided accordingly with happiness index, and out of variety of fields to decide happiness, Fukui Prefecture excels in the fields of education and employment rate. So before explaining my argument, I'll first explain my setup. So in Fukui, the uniqueness of Fukui's fields is that they are prosperous in the fields of fishery and making traditional crafts. And this is the setup. And also in Fukui, obviously population is less than the areas in metropolitan places. So now I would like to explain the status quo. So the appealing point is that Fukui excels in the quality of education and high employment rate. However, if the population increases in Fukui prefectures because of the appealing, emphasizing themselves as the happiest prefecture, then they'll gain low human resources, and this will not contribute to the appealing point of Fukui prefectures ultimately. So I'm going to explain this one by one. So the reason why there will be low human resources is that those who come into Fukui prefectures are those who are not sufficient with their current situation. For example, if those people who are already satisfied with their current situation, for example, those who are working at good companies in Tokyo or other metropolitan places, then they don't have any incentive to move to Fukui prefecture. But those who have incentive to move to Fukui prefectures is those that are unhappy. For example, they don't have any pride in the current companies they are working in, and maybe they don't even have jobs, and they have unstable living. And therefore, they believe that if they go to Fukui prefecture, then they're going to provide them with something good. The Fukui is going to provide these people with positive impact. But because these people have this nature that external factors will help them to get a better life, these people are likely to not contribute to the place where they will be working in Fukui prefectures. That's why we assume that those who move to Fukui prefectures are low human resources. And what this will happen is that if these people move to Fukui prefectures, the companies, let's say the companies employ these low human resources, but they're not going to contribute to the overall profits of the companies because they don't even try to contribute to like making creative ideas to the projects. Yes. I'm sorry, I don't get your point. I'll move that to the next speaker. Then that's the mechanism behind why those who move to Fukui prefectures are those who are not satisfied with the current situation. So the after plan of this motion is that the Fukui prefecture can maintain the current happy index. And that is because those who move to Fukui prefecture are without this kind of appealing point is that those who are already interested in the fields of fishery and traditional crafts industry. And because these people have the proper knowledge to enhance the quality of fishery industry and also traditional crafts, it is definite that they'll at least try to contribute to the prosperity of these fields in Fukui prefecture. And also, we assume that the companies will invest in these kind of fields because our setup is that Fukui prefecture is already prospering in the fields of traditional crafts and also fish industry. And because Fukui prefecture can attract those who are high-end human resources, this will ultimately contribute into the prosperity of Fukui Prefecture and cut off all the low human resources. Also, we would like to point out that happiness is vague. Like, how do you decide what the happiness is? It's really unlikely to convert into profit. However, because these Fukui prefectures are already prosperous in the fields of fishery industry and traditional crafts, these fields are more likely to make profits rather than just a vague happiness, which the Fukui Prefecture will appeal if this motion is not passed. So because of this, we believe that it is more, it causes more good than harm if we do not appeal this Fukui Prefectures as one of the happiest prefecture in Japan. And even if these human resources don't come to Fukui Prefecture, we still have, these Fukui Prefectures still have the unique points like these fish industry and traditional crafts. So they're already happy with the current situation. So what is the point of trying to increase that by appealing themselves as happiness happy prefecture? So if they're happy with the current situation, then that's fine. Just move on with that. So the impact is that, as I said, there will be more low human resources will influx into this prefecture. And what this will happen is that because fish industry and traditional crafts require only few amount of people, then demand and the supply doesn't match because demand overweighs the supply of the fields of these workings. And that's why if overpopulation come into this field, then this will likely to pollute the environment, for example, too many ships in the ocean and stuff like that. And that's why we are happy to propose this motion.
Okay, as the leader of opposition, I'm Kaoru Morikawa, and let me start my speech. 3, 2, 1. Before I discuss my substantive, let me first respond to the case of government bench, quality in education and high employment rate. First, Prime Minister said that if Fukui's population increase, they won't be able to maintain their status. They will have low human resources. Unhappy people moving to Fukui. They don't have jobs and they won't contribute to Fukui Prefecture. And this is not true. Even if it's true, that even if it's true that unskilled human resources move to Fukui, just like any other prefecture, Fukui has current mechanism in place to deal with this scenario. For example, we have various programs hosted by the Fukui International Affairs Office and Fukui's local Department of Commerce that match individuals to join individual to job, and even train them to develop the necessary skills necessary skills. This is because the promotion of Fukui being the happiest prefecture gives incentives for the local government and the local community to maintain this status. And this is status. Okay. And okay. No proper knowledge to enhance traditional fisheries. No, thank you. And craft. That may be true in the beginning, but Fukui has a very active local community in every area, like in Sabae, Echizen, and Tsuruga, etc. They have many events for Japanese and foreign nationals that help immerse and train them in the local livelihood means of the area. And this is how Fukui is able to maintain its traditional crafts in the first place. So they will be able to develop skills for this. Okay, so let me move on to my argument. First, let me clarify what status quo looks like, and the second, what is unique about this strategy being the happiest and promoted. So let me explain first argument. So Fukui is proud of being the happiest prefecture in Japan. So they use it and to use it to promote Fukui to the domestic and international visitors, and they use it to motivate on residents in Fukui. Also, this is not only strategy that Fukui doing, because there are other culture sites and local cuisines and traditional practices, and so it's unique to Fukui. And fortunately, I'm from Fukui and I'm living Fukui, so I know a lot of things. For example, the crab and sauce katsudon and zen in the Eiheiji. So okay, so why is promoting the title of Fukui good? Because this incentivizes citizens and other sectors, for example, business sectors in Fukui, to maintain and preserve this title of being happiest prefecture. So let me talk about what does it look like. So this means maintaining quality of work. So culture, health, livelihood, and education in the area. And this means that, thank you, there is a strongest incentives to preserve or improve the prefecture to maintain its status. For example, you see, this Fukui was able to strike a balance between preserving cultural identity, and developing industry. So, so the Shinkansen, the Hokuriku Shinkansen, is coming in March. And why it is important for family. So because family will exist in the relatively high quality of life. So there's a tight community that has preserved its values of family and cultural identity. So, and this is why in Fukui, grandparents are close to the children in the Fukui. So you may think, what's so special? What's so special with this strategy? I'll talk about in second argument. And so let me move on to the second argument. What is unique about this strategy? Being the happiest and promoted. What does it mean? It means that your citizens are known to have a high quality of life. So it leads to the work-life balance or more productive citizens. So it can help attract the insectors or workers that Fukui needs. So it's not only local people, but also international people. And Fukui's local government will also be accountable to making sure that the strike a balance between identity and progress. No, thank you. And let's compare to other prefecture strategy. So other prefecture emphasize the development too much and only consider the progress in terms of infrastructure and more business. And so it is so bad. It can displaces people and changes the identity of the area. So this is what we call gentrification. But it's gonna be less likely to happen in opposition side because multi-generational homes are preserved in Fukui, so there's no gentrification. And because we focus on making sure the needs of people in both preserving their culture and having some degrees of controlled environment are met. So it's gonna be less likely happen in opposition side. So let me summarize what I told you. First, what the status quo looks like. In the Fukui is using their this that being the happiest prefecture in Japan. They use it and they develop their prefecture and industry. And second, I talked that gentrification. So there is no gentrification. So Fukui is good. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Wait, sorry. No, I'm sorry. My timer isn't working. Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry. How is it? Okay, I'm so sorry. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the Prime Minister has talked about how like the employment will go down due to like more workforce coming into like the Fukui Prefecture, and also how like the level of education is going to go down because like usually like currently Fukui has has a low population, so that's why we can do like short like we can have like a low number of people like taking some classes, and that's why like the quality of like classes and like education is becoming higher. But like if we have more people going into like the Fukui Prefecture, then obviously like there's going to be more like children to look after, there's going to be more like workforce, and it's going to be unnecessary, and we're not going to be able to maintain like the amount of quality that has been maintained until now. Okay, now moving on to my rebuttal against what the opposition has said, like the leader of the opposition. Okay, so they have said that first of all, they have said that they can like preserve like the tradition and like of Fukui, because like Fukui holds a lot of like immersive events, and so they like the tradition can be preserved. But that is something that we are going to be talking about, because currently like what the opposition is trying to say is that they are trying to promote Fukui based on its happiness index, and happiness index is not about the traditional culture. It is about like the it is about for example voter turnout or like the level of education. It's not based on traditions or culture at all. And so currently their argument is completely illogical at the moment. And culture, like the promotion of culture, is what we are going to be talking about, and that is what I will be arguing in my impact today. Okay, now back to my main arguments. So first of all, my SQ, so the problem of like appealing Fukui prefecture based on this like happiness index is that happiness index is not transparent and also it's unsustainable. And then onto my after plan, which is that if we focus more on like not on the happiness index, but we're gonna focus on more on like boosting and promoting culture, and that can really help to boost like tourism in Fukui in a way that is sustainable. And then my impact is going to be that because we appeal as a prefecture, not based on like data that talks about like the level of education or like how many like voters are turning out. That's not what we're focusing on because that's data and that can change. However, we're gonna be focusing on traditions in like the Fukui and that how that can be promoting and how that can lead to like better like boost of the economy and like sustainable appeal as Fukui or overall. Okay, so back to my status quo. So if we're dependent on happiness index and nothing else, that's sustainable because the index is changeable and it's also like it could drop like ranking. Fukui could like go down to like 10th in place in like happiness index in Japan, like in the next year, for example. Like it like just because Fukui has been like ranked #1 for like the past 10 years doesn't mean it's gonna be ranked #1 next year, right? So it's completely illogical to like think that it's gonna that is sustainable and that is like for sure going to happen. Okay, and also, so why is that possible? No, thank you. Okay, so happiness index could be correct, for example. For example, like say that Okinawa wanted to be like #1 in like the happiness index. So they decided to bribe the government so that they will be like seen as like they will have a higher ranking. That could happen. So the corruption is possible. And also like if the mayor of like say that Fukui changes, like if say that the mayor changes and decides to make like drastic changes to like the education or like the formal education or like workforce in Fukui, then like obviously there's going to be some changes made and then that could change like like that could change like one of the qualities that the happiness index is based on. For example, voter turnout, like people might not like new mayor, so like obviously they're not going to vote for the new mayor. What happens to the voter turnout in like data now, right? It's not sustainable and it's just illogical to think that we can rely on that forever. Okay, so even if the happiness index is not corrupt, happiness is not measurable by the qualities that index is made on. So it's like because it's based on numbers and data and like voter turnout. So like the exclusivity like of this like status quo is that like brand and also another point. Okay, so branding is irreversible. So branding like Fukui's branding as a prefecture is irreversible because once they appeal that their happiness index is first, then and if like the happiness index is proven wrong, say that like they like the next year they don't turn out to be like first place, then everything that they've been appealing is proven wrong, and that is a really big flaw. And like people are not going to like trust Fukui like the prefecture anymore, right? And say that somebody moved to prefecture because they were attracted by like the happiness index there, and then once they moved and the next year boom, like say that the happiness that Fukui ranked like 5th place in Japan suddenly, then like that could also lose voters and that could also lose like downfall of Fukui in like happiness index or overall. Okay, now back to my onto my outer plan. So like if we focus more on boosting the promoting the culture, so say that like Fukui is located by the Japanese Sea, and as the prime minister has it has like strong fishing industry, for example. So its economy is boosted by these industries, right? And promoting these cultures is important because Fukui is currently first place in the happiness index for 10 years, but that is not guaranteed in the future, and so it's illogical to rely on that. So if we if you rely on the other cultures, then if you rely on like traditions, we can like develop a more sustainable way of doing that. And so how do we do that? Well, I'm going to talk about like the impact now. So because we appeal as a prefecture and not rely on unsustainable facts such as data, like voter turnout or like level of education or like how like the good like the workplace is, or say that like in AP, so in the after plan, like we are no longer reliant on data that could be wrong in basis, like say that it could be corrupt, right? But we are reliant on Fukui's appeal of this culture, and say that and also young people currently in Fukui want to continue to live in Fukui because like of the happiness index, because it's good because Fukui is currently functioning and sufficient as an economy, and that is why they are so high, like probably in the happiness index, and so it's already like fully established as a prefecture. And if we continue to appeal its culture and not its happiness, we will be able to like we were able to like grow awareness of like the qualities of like Fukui's culture, not its happiness index, and traditional customs such as fishing or like good food, and for example, and so it could encourage outsiders to be captivated like by qualities other than like data such as like voter turnout. And then like outsiders of like Fukui can observe and see the qualities of like Fukui that is unique and dependent and not dependent on data, but something that is based on what makes people in Fukui truly happy. So like for example, like multi-generation families encouragingly support and form strong bonds in the family. That is not like the happiness index quality, but that is like the quality of culture and tradition of Fukui. So like the impacts of appealing culture is that it enables people to see what actually makes people happy. And so when they visit, I've said that they stay in a minka, like in Fukui, for example, they can actually observe how different life in Fukui is compared to like outside Fukui, like in Tokyo, for example. So currently, Fukui stands and functions well as a prefecture, and appealing. Appealing on its like based on its happiness index is extremely unreliable because it's based on like unpredictable and unsustainable qualities. So it is better to appeal to Fukui's unique culture that sets them and its citizens apart from other prefectures, and that is why we are happy to oppose.
Testing. Okay. Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So marketing 101, marketing and advertising 101. If something is unique to you, or if something is unique to your company or your area, you focus and build on that. You develop on that, right? That's how businesses succeed. That's how tourism works, right? That's why Malaysia has a slogan of Malaysia, truly Asia, because, you know, they have a specific culture that reflects majority of Asian cultures, for example. Or it's more fun in the Philippines because it really is more fun in the Philippines, you guys. And that's what's unique about that. So they focus on what is unique to them. And in Fukui, not many prefectures can brag this title of being the happiest prefecture all over Japan. And there's like, what, 47 prefectures? Oh, that's right. Right. So there's 47 prefectures, right? So there's so many. And the fact that this tiny prefecture was able to attain this kind of title, was able to balance different things like population, work, culture, contrary to what government bench is saying, this does also concern about culture. And the thrust of Fukui promoting being the happiest prefecture does involve culture and preservation of their traditional crafts as well, which was mentioned by leader of opposition. The fact that we're able to balance all of these things that many other prefectures are struggling to do, and many other countries outside Japan are also struggling to do, we think that this is a feat in its own, and it's worthy to be promoted because it makes your prefecture unique, and it further promotes more tourism and more investment in your area. That's the very reason why Fukui is also slowly adapting to the changes that's happening as well. Even if it's adapting to the many changes, even if it accepts like the Shinkansen opening, for example, in March, for example, you guys should come visit. We think that it's still able to strike a balance because they are still able to strike a balance between progress, infrastructure development, and promoting the preservation of their farmlands, for example. That's why we have the best, one of the best sakes all over Japan, and one of the best rice in Japan. So we're able to preserve these things thanks to the promotion of this particular slogan, right? I'll take you later. But before that, before I further extend my case, let's discuss the case given to us by government even more. They said that, oh, this is not based on tradition and culture at all. That's not true. If you go back to the info slide, it also does discuss culture, education, and all of these things. That's what makes this slogan unique, because it's the only slogan that perfectly encapsulates why the people there are happy and why the people's quality of life there is happy. And that's why you have to come visit Fukui, right? So this is contributory to the happiness of people. And that's the reason why right now, and my leader of opposition was very clear, Fukui is also heavily investing not just on the development of some infrastructures, but also in preserving all these other traditional spots that we have in Fukui, like the Eiheiji Temple and the other farmlands that you see all over Fukui, right? The alternative of government bench, which came out in the Deputy Prime Minister's speech, by the way, was that that we need to focus on tradition and culture instead. But that's what's already being done when you use this slogan as a way to promote Fukui, right? That's the reason why when you see a poster promoting Fukui being the happiest prefecture in the world, you see the etches in crab, you see the lacquerware, for example, you see the washi, for example, you see other types of things that are found only in Fukui. So obviously, this does concern culture as well, right? So we don't think that government bench was truly debating on what their side is really supposed to defend, right? We believe that for government bench to enter this debate, it should have been about, they should have harped on the other parts of the info slide, like saying that Fukui has very conservative people, for example, or there's less populated. You should have harped more on that in saying that. So if we keep on doing this promotion, then you're just going to maintain the fact that Fukui has to be conservative all the time or less populous all the time. Something like that's something that they should have mentioned in their speech. But I don't think that it's too late for them to bring that up now, right? But also, we're not saying that just because even if they did say that, we think that Fukui is not resistant to progress at all. That's why the key here is balance. Even if there's a conservative people, even if these people don't vote, for example, if there's corruption, we don't think that's true. Because my leader of opposition perfectly said that there's an incentive for individuals to make sure that the slogan is really met, right? Because there's this expectation coming from people outside Japan and people who live in Fukui to make sure that that this particular standard is met, right? But also, if they're going to talk about like there's low voter turnout and corruption and stuff like that, I think this is not something that's mutually exclusive in Fukui. If it does exist, I think that it can exist in other areas as well. So I don't get the delta there, right? But second of all, what happens when it they also asked the question, what happens when it no longer holds that record? Like we said, doesn't this make the community demand even more from the government to try to bring back the stature of Fukui to its original state? Because people had a very high quality of life using that slogan and by following that strategy, right? So if they said that Fukui is already established as a prefecture, why are you changing it? Why are you opposing this strategy if it is established already? It works, right? So we think, and where my leader of opposition perfectly argued to you that because it works, there's a motivation to preserve it and even improve it, right? That's why if you take a look at the educational system in Fukui, a lot of them are upgrading their educational facilities and making sure that they're exposed to English even more, for example, right? So we clarify in my extension that there are many strategies that fall under this promotional strategy, and not many prefectures can brag about this. So this is good because it directly relates to the people and their needs. How many prefectures or how many places have a slogan that directly concerns itself with the happiness of its people and the welfare of its people, right? This is a very great and unique strategy. It's so rare to have a resident-centered policy, but this also attracts and makes other people curious about how people in Fukui are living their lives, right? This also incentivizes not just the local government, not just the tourists, but also residents who migrated to Fukui to keep up with it. Before I moved to Fukui, well, we were all told that Fukui is the happiest prefecture on earth, and we were asked about how we were able to keep up with that pace, right? So Fukui's businesses know this. So before they hire, they also inform people about it, right? So we think that this is best maintained through the many practices and many programs that the Fukui local government has, and Fukui non-government organizations also do, like Fukui Smile, for example, or Fukui Happiness Forum. There's so many things that help maintain the identity of the place and also help make sure that everybody else who's not originally from Fukui can keep up with the traditional livelihood and the changes that we're doing in order to accommodate some developments as well. We think that it's a working strategy. There's no need to, don't fix it if it's not broken. And you guys should definitely come visit. Hey, thank you.
Multiple. Okay, so my speech starts. 3, 2, 1. Our winning strategy is really simple. Avoiding risk of overpopulation, like high skyrocketing unemployment rate, and also like a lot of pollution, is more important than making more profit for the this kind of Fukui prefecture. And also, even though it is not true, it is urgent issue for us to get the auto help, but still like using the happiness index is really, really stupid. Maybe like we have to use the traditional like the phrase things more in the first place. But before we move first argument, let me clarify what is the exclusive point. Let me rehash what my like Yamada-san said in the first place, right? You know, like in the opposition side, uniquely, they need to illustrate how education system is good and how employment is good with these kind of things, right? Like today's L on the DLO focus on the traditional products, but this is done by the government sides either in the first place, right? Why? Because you know, like opposition side have to say that Fukui is happy, the living in the Fukui is happy in the first place, right? And what is happiness? What affects happiness is employment or like education. Because you know, like in the view of the city's people's mind, tradition is not that important. Maybe education and employment is important, right? So that is why the difference is that we focus on the tradition. They focus on the happiness index, which really, really vague and included education and employment. So first is that why avoiding the risk of overpopulation is more important. Two is here. A, the Fukui's people is really conservative. That's why the Fukui's people put emphasis on the stability over, and they don't like really change in the first place, right? But you know, like because not even though they feel dissatisfied with a little bit, they endure because they don't want to get any like unpredictable like future in the first place, right? And also like so that is why and also in general in the economy, like negative is really more important than the positive in the first place, people's perception. That is why that you know like unpredictable like risk is more important than this kind of benefit in general, right? Secondly, what is more, at you know like at once this kind of change happen, the effect is irreversible in the first place, right? At once many people, unhappy people living in the Fukui prefecture, they cannot like kick out this kind of population towards their own city again in the first place, right? And also, so that is why you know like we say that Fukui is already happy. Fukui have already happiness life. So that is why you know, like the blocking of this kind of happier life is more important than making them more happy in the first place, right? So that secondly, why that like the risk is so huge in the first place? Three reasons over here. Firstly, unemployment rate are likely to skyrocketing in the first place, right? As my person explained, like main industry in the Fukui prefecture is fishing industry or traditional industry, which do not produce much employment in the first place, right? But you know, like in the fishing or like this kind of traditional issue, like you know, like the one person can produce multiple things in the first place, and also like so that's why you know they comparing with you know production like the construction industry whatever, like this kind of employment in general do not have produce many demand in the first place. But you know like today's like opposition said that but education might succeed in the first place. No, education are likely to fail. But you know like in general rescuing is really, really hard because they need to change that to be adults people's mind. But you know like, adults have already like solid to make established the mindset in the first place, already established the skill set. For example, it is really hard for them to reskilling and change their mindset and skill set in the first place in general. And also you know like as my person explained like a student's mindset is really terrible. They don't because you know they are really, really dissatisfied with our city life, and they choose not to make an effort in the city but move to the other like prefecture which offers them happiness life in the first place, right? Like they put emphasis on the they just rely on the external factor in the first place. These kinds of people's mindset is really, really toxic in terms of education are likely to fail. So that is why what happened, you know, like the public at once the unemployment people like increase, like public safety are likely to go down. Many people commit a crime and many people suffer with the like insecurity in their own city in the first place, right? And also like they have to pay a lot of social security towards these kinds of unemployment people. That is why in the Fukui prefecture reduce the budget for the education, for examples, right? Secondly, it's overpopulation, as my partner explained that, you know, like many people like come gather to the Fukui prefecture. So that is why, you know, like actually it takes time for us to make a sufficient amount of infrastructure, right? It takes time for us to build on the education, like school, for example. It takes time for us to build the road, for example. So at once many people gather at once, you know, like the teacher cannot deal with this increasing the children. That is why the education quality goes down, and also many people leave. That was why a lot of garbage go out of the sea. That is why many like environmental pollution are likely to happen, and fishing industry is destroyed. You know, like and also the people are likely to complain on the culture shock happening in the first place. So that's why, as I mentioned, risk it's so huge. Not so that is why like avoiding risk is a top priority. Third, and also it's not urgent issue for us to get auto help in the first place. Why? Because like many young people in the Fukui always love the Fukui's life in the first place, right? That is why the young people living in the Fukui are likely to continue to live in the Fukui in the first place and help the entire Fukui nation in the first place, right? And secondly, what is more, like they have the established industry, fishing industry, traditional industry. They have the established and also stable like income source in the first place. They don't need to get other like, auto help in the first place, right? Today is the opposition say that mention about the tourism, but like tourism, they don't need the tourism because without the tourism, they can get like large amount of the money, financial budget to like maintain their own social security. And also, tourism is rather harmful because at once the tourism flourish, like environmental pollution are more likely to happen because many people come, and also like the native industry are likely to be destroyed in the first place, right? So that is why that auto help is not beneficial, but auto help is harmful. That is why that like the avoiding risk again is more important. Today's opposition never explained that why it is urgent issue for us to get auto help. That is why opposition never win in this debate in the first place, right? Fourthly, even if it is an urgent issue for us to increase the population, but still like using happiness in this is really stupid in the first place, right? So it is here. A, as the Yamada-san, as Fukui-san said, like like this kind of index is really unstable in the first place, right? Because like happiness is invisible, and this kind of happiness is defined by the random private sector, which is not accountable actor in the first place, right? So that is why that it's very changeable in the first place, right? At once, it is very possible for this kind of private sector to choose another prefecture to be the happiest nation in the first place, right? That is why that like this kind of branding image should be based on the stable like branding in the first place, because it takes time for us to have the established branding. But like these kind of things never happen in the first place, so that's why stability is very more important, and also target is very terrible. And and also and on that point, opposition said that like we have to focus on the uniqueness, but like the happiness index score is not that uniqueness. The unique point with the Fukui prefecture is a tradition in the first place, right? Because this is very tangible and it is very unchangeable in the first place, right? That is why that like in terms of the uniqueness, like promoting the tradition, it's more important and more showing the uniqueness of the Fukui prefecture in the first place. That is why in terms of the marketing, like using happiness index, it's really terrible again. And also like many people might not understand what is a happiness index in the first place, because this is not also as one in the first place, right? But like many people notice how sophisticated the traditional product is in the first place, right? This is intuitive because this is visible in the first place, right? That is why in terms of the stability, persuasiveness, like using the happiness index is stupid actor. We have to focus on the tradition we are very proud to propose today.
Okay. So, as the opposition whip speaker, I'm Yosuke Mistani from Nagoya University. Only one. Okay. So, I'll start my. Wait. I start my speech 3, 2, 1. So in my speech, there are three things. First, brief refutation to the what previous speaker said. Secondly, the engagement with the opposition government side argument. Thirdly, our explanation or extending in our side, plus and the waning. So first of all, briefly refutation. I have two refutations. First of all, he said the previous speaker said conservatives do not need changes and do not need unpredictable future. So that is one of the reasons those people who come into Fukui, they really disagree with that project, which make the Fukui prefecture as most happiest prefecture. However, we don't think so because they dismiss the aspects of the conservative people. For example, conservative people are proud of the Fukui prefecture itself, so they have incentives to help those people. For example, aspects of the public or traditions, and also the helping their children. Yeah, also they are the person. They are people who make that tradition, who continue that tradition. So those people have strong incentives to maintain those cultures, right? So they misunderstood the aspects of those conservative people. And the second response is that. Yeah, their first speaker and second speaker clearly told us that we should focus on the tradition. However, the whip speaker said that because of that tradition, those livelihood lead to unemployment. So their stance is a little bit contradictory, thinking about the inconsistency, right? So that is a brief repetition. So next, let me move to their engagement. I have 3 engagement on this debate. First of all, we can expect the education improvement. They mentioned a lot of points. However, first of all, I have 2 points on this point. I think that Fukui local governments have the strong capacity to do that, because as our first speaker clearly told you, the Fukui prefecture, because of this project, Fukui can expect investors like international workers, or not only the international workers or local workers. They need some stakeholders, although, so they can have some fund from the investors. And also, as I said before, thanks to the aspects of the older people or conservative people, they can get the cooperation with those people. Thanks for the cooperation with those people, we can expect the education improvement. Yeah, right. And also, they mentioned that happiness is really vague index. So we should not base on the happiness point. However, we think the important thing is that the happiness, those index, including the educational point. So whether happiness is index or obvious index or not, is if it includes the education point, yeah, the goal is obvious. So the Fukui's goal is to establish more and more children are inclusive in education. For example, for example, in Fukui Prefecture, local Fukui governments can hold a lot of events regarding the tradition or local events, and also their grandma and grandpa go to help children go to school with safety. Those we can expect those cooperation, right? So the happiness variant is really big. And also, in addition to that, what I want to say that our second speaker clearly told you, we have to emphasize the strengths of this slogan and the simple. You know, the happiest. Yeah, whether happiness is vague, but the people understand the slogan. People understand the goal. We should achieve those happiness points, right? So their mindset is really become more strong. Sorry, I take you later. A strong tie. So is really important point. So yes, that is the first response. That is the first engagement. The second engagement, that they mentioned the irreversible. Because of this irreversible, Fukui cannot opt out newcomers. So that newcomers will make a lot of problems within the Fukui prefecture. However, we don't think so. First of all, I have 2 rebuttals on this point. First of all, our second speaker clearly told you those newcomers will bring the most benefits to that point. So I do not explain about more. So let me and also the second response is that because of this irreversible, so the thanks for this irreversible, even if Fukui falls out of the first ranking, they continue their slogan, they continue those achievement because of this irreversibility. So they can use the branding as a strategy for a long time. So their argument likelihood is really low down, right? Yeah, that is a second response. There is a third engagement. So third engagement is that they mentioned that unskilled workers will have the yes, I take a point. No, that education, ingredient to achieve the happiness, people understand some important points such as educational point, and also children become more have more a lot of talking, some cheerful things. So it's obvious goal. Yeah. So let me move on to the third engagement. Third engagement is that yeah, I want to doubt their point. So, first of all, those unskilled workers would come to the Fukui Prefecture. No, I think that likelihood is really low because there are some risks of moving their places. For example, they have to adapt their lives to the new lives, and also they have to adapt themselves to the relationship with acquaintances in that area. So, considering those risks, so the likelihood is really low. So surgery, so there is a 3 engagement in their side. So now let me clarify our arguments. Our importance is that Fukui is Fukui is small prefecture, and this culture is similar to another culture. So the uniqueness of our things is this branding, and this brand. So Fukui needs that branding to outstand the other prefecture. This is our impact. So important impact. That's all. Thank you.
I'm going to explain why opposition bench won this debate and make Fukui proud, for example. First, we have a very unclear case from government bench. DPM introduced it, and then government bench finally kind of clarified it, right? That they said that they want to focus on their traditional culture of Fukui instead, right? Never mind that we responded to this by saying that the current slogan also promotes this as well, right? Now, the reason why Fukui is happiest prefecture is because it's able to strike a balance on the different aspects of life, not only work, not only the environment, not only education, but also your culture as well, right? But also, if we stop using this slogan as a strategy, Fukui is a very small prefecture. It's even out of the way currently because we don't have the Shinkansen yet. Soon it will come. It's out of the way. What will motivate people to want to come to Fukui if you don't use what is unique to it, right? They said it's about traditional culture and stuff. That's true. But the thing is, a lot of the cultural things that are present in Fukui are also present elsewhere. Similarly, we have sauce katsudon. We also have a place in the Kanto area that claims that they're the ones who have sauce katsudon. And we also believe that the Fukui rice is superior, but apparently Niigata, or is it Nagano, also believes that their rice is superior. So we think that if you cling onto the traditional aspects alone, we think that it's going to be less of an incentive for people to want to come and visit Fukui, right? What makes Fukui stand out is the fact that it's able to balance all these things. What we're promoting is the quality of life or the way of living of individuals in this area that you don't see elsewhere. That's what makes it unique, and that's what makes Fukui attractive, and that's what makes it very difficult for me to want to leave Fukui. I enjoy living there, right? So you need to focus on what's unique in the area to further make it work and to further promote it effectively, right? They're saying that our stance is vague because, how is it vague though, right? And why is this harm of being vague so bad, right? When in fact they said that Fukui has established itself as a prefecture. They said that in their speech. So if it's vague, why is it working? And why do we need to stop doing it? Right? We think it's going to create more harm to Fukui, my beloved Fukui, if we change an already working strategy, right? So we think that it's also contradictory on their side. They want to promote tradition and culture, but in the same breath, they also said that these traditional livelihoods don't generate too much jobs and will lead to unemployment. So it's kind of contradictory. You're promoting one thing and saying that this type of promotion that you're promoting is also bad for them. So why do we need to change it if what you're promoting it leads to even more harms, right? So they said that it's going to promote public security going down, and it's going to promote environmental destruction. We responded to this already by saying that what makes this slogan successful is it activates local communities to make them active, to call out the government all the time, to make sure that the quality of life that they've been enjoying for many generations is preserved, right? So we think that that's what makes this slogan also effective, because it's very resident centered, right? So we're telling you that what it tells the local communities, they need to be watchful. What it tells to the tourists is it is a prefecture that's worth checking out. And what does it tell people who want to work there? That it has a good standard of living because it offers assistance from the local government, and the local community is very active in making sure that you will be part of the community as well. We've discussed that very clearly in opposition bench. It also sends the message that the local government is hell-bent at promoting the welfare of its people, and it does allow progress, but it also prioritizes people's quality of life as well. Something that not a lot of prefectures or not a lot of areas can brag about. So with that, we rest our case in opposition. Thank you.
I'll take my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to make a few contradictions and like up against what the opposition side has said. For example, they have said that like through programs and events like that are traditional, like um we can like maintain they can maintain like all the qualities and like in Fukui, and like even if like new workforce or like new people come in, like the level of like traditions and like tradition and like the for example international traditional crafts will be maintained, and that's what they have said. But like for example, like other prefectures have these kind of like events and like, immersive programs too. So like if a different prefecture like invented a good immersive program like that enables like outsiders to really like understand like the culture and like traditions, then how can it be assumed that like the effectiveness or like of these immersive cultural like programs is only exclusive to that to like of like Fukui? Because like opposition's argument is based on like an utopian idea, or like also like events will like maintain the quality, like events can maintain like the quality of like craft skills, like traditions and cultures. However, like what about like the worst case scenario? Like what if like I mean like why are they so certain that like this event can boost like citizens like motive to like actually maintain the level of standard like in the traditional crafts, and like they don't provide like how they are so certain that like these steps like taking these like introducing these kind of programs, like immersive programs and events, so that like the level of traditional crafts can be maintained is like fully like functional. They don't provide any evidence or like any function, like any mechanism on how that is made possible. And also, okay, we have talked about like how the risk of overpopulation like will come if we like if Fukui decided to like appeal like the happiness index as like and decides to promote it. For example, like say that like there are more students in the class because so many people come to Fukui because they're attracted by the happiness index, right? And then obviously we're not going to be Fukui is not going to be able to maintain like the level quality of education. But however, opposition said that even if Fukui's happiness index falls, for example, like the level of education falls, they are still going to have that motivation to like for Fukui to and like the citizens of and the government of Fukui is going to have that motivation to maintain and like gain their ranking, like gain back their ranking. But however, like it's not shown how that is possible in the first place. Because like for example, if we apply opposition arguments that say that teachers are going to be motivated to maintain the quality of education, but like how are they going to be able to do that even if like they have more people or like children to teach? Because like say that like the teachers like I'm teaching the Fukui are actually not from Fukui, so they're not a Fukui citizen. They're from like, say like they're from Okinawa, for example. How do you think that as a non-Fukui like citizen, like they are going to have the motivation to like actually gain back and like improve the happiness index like ranking of Fukui? And also I like back down, and then I'm gonna talk about employment. So okay, so like a high unemployment rate will happen regardless of programs by government to help to maintain equality, like understand it like up to now. So for example, like say that like we have like more people coming in and becoming employed by the Fukui government, right? But like the government, like the human resources that are coming from other prefectures into Fukui are going to be like a low level, and the reason for that is because people coming into Fukui are unhappy and wanting to be happy, or they're unemployed and wanting to be employed. So the teachers' levels are expected to be low because they hold so much hope in Fukui's happiness index appeal, and that they're going to rely on it. However, on the other hand, no, like on the other hand, Fukui's government is actually relying on these new level like low levels of workforce to like bring like Fukui and like maintain its high standard of education. So like the government and also like the newly employed outsiders of Fukui are actually relying on each other. So it's not exactly sure like how this situation is like going to work, because it's not exactly like the opposition promotion like of events like teachers like events and programs are going to, they don't show how it's so functional that it can surely maintain and improve Fukui's happiness index.